Pantoufleee! Hello everyone, Pantoufleee here today for a new video in which we're gonna discuss the Vickers light tanks. I have for you 4 replays that a subscriber sent to me and I really want to thank him for that. Don't worry guys, everything is legal. I asked to Wargaming before doing the video in order not to get striked another time. But still, I want to remind you one thing before starting the main subject of this video. And the thing I want to tell you is that these tanks, the new light tanks from the British tech tree, are going to be available for free as they are researchable. We're not talking about collectibles, we are not talking about premiums, we're talking about regular tanks. They are going to be available starting at the Comet, so you better green your Comet if you want to get your hands on one of them. And you're going to be able to unlock the tier 8 if you have 100 XP on the Comet. That's overall what you need to know regarding the tech trees. Now, do you want to get these tanks? Do you want to grind them? I'm going to explain to you what are the pros and the cons really simply, and after we're going to go through details. First thing first, overall you have an amazing gun. Simply one of the best guns I've ever seen, especially on the light tank at tier 10, but also an amazing mobility and probably no armor like it's the case for pretty much every single light tanks in this game. That's their main characteristics. Usually they have an amazing gun, an amazing mobility and a bad armor. That's the regular playstyle of the light tanks. But you're gonna ask, okay, Pantouf, if the tank is average in terms of pros and cons, why should we go for the Vickers and not, for example, to the Sheridan that has the special missiles or the Batchat that has an autoloader? And I'm gonna tell you why you should go for this one instead. Because to me, the Vickers is simply the best out there, the best light tank at tier 10. It's quite versatile. Why? You have 10 degrees of gun depression. You have an amazing mobility. Out of all the light tanks at tier 10, you have the lowest profile. And you know how it is, the lower the profile, the better the camo. So you probably have the better camo rating. Also, the main thing with this tank is probably how fast and accurate the gun is in terms of reload, in terms of gun depression. This tank is doing astonishingly well. I mean, 10 degrees of gun depression, 0.31, no, 10 degrees of gun depression, 0.31 of gun dispersion. It's simply amazing. 350 alpha damage. Let's say that when you're playing this tank, you have depression, you have dispersion, you have a good aim time. So why should you bother, for example, play the Leopard 1 instead of playing this one? I know a lot of people are asking about that, and I don't think this tank is gonna power creep the Leo 1 simply because the Leo 1 has its own abilities as well. It's reloading faster, it still have the same, it has the same alpha damage, it's the 350 on the Leo 1. But overall, let's face it, this tank is, in my opinion, and I don't know yet because we need to wait for Wargaming to implement the tank, and the statistics are subject to change, of course, because the tank is not here yet. But I'm expecting it to be quite strong in the hands of a good player only, and that's what I love about these kind of tanks. If you're following the channel for a longer time than new subscribers that just hit subscribe this week, you will know that my type of tank is the kind that is extremely versatile and extremely good, but only in the hands of the right player. And I truly think it's the case with this one, because as you can see from this first replay, but also you're gonna see in the future replays, when it tries to shoot with heat shells, you don't have the best penetration. And I think that's how Wargaming is trying to counterbalance the Vickers. No armor and a bad penetration with gold shells, because he can't go through the turret cheeks of the Yak Panther E100. So maybe he equipped it not properly and went for calibrated shell instead of gun rammer, or went for gun rammer instead of calibrated shell. But I think that's something we will have to work with. Maybe you will have to lower a little bit your DPM in order to get a little bit more penetration, because penetration is essential, especially when you have to use gold shells, etc. Look at this, look at the struggle. He's playing with the heat shells here, and the Yak Panther E100 appears all red, even knowing the tank was not angled at all. So that's what I fear about this tank, the lack of gun penetration. And if you don't have gun penetration, it's gonna be quite hardcore for you to do good games at tier 10. And it's good because it means you will have to circle, you will have to flank, you will have to be active in order to make it work. And that's what I love about the Vickers for the moment, because of course the tank is not here yet. But if it's the case, and if Wargaming intends to make it a good tank only if you move, that's simply perfect, because that's the don't forget that that's the role of light tanks. Light tanks are not supposed to snipe in the back, to wait for their team to spot. They are here to actively spot for the rest of their team, and that's exactly what you intend to do if you want to play the Vickers light tank, the tier 10. Now, if we talk about the rest of the branch, the one I'm fearing the most at the moment is not really the Vickers Light, it's probably the tier 8, the FV301 or 321, I don't remember the exact name, I'm sorry, but the tier 8 of the new branch. When I did the reaction stream to Wargaming 7.0 stream, they showed the FV301, or I don't know what it is called, but the tier 8 light tank, the British one. And it appeared that the tanks seemed to be completely broken. I don't know if it's gonna be the case. I'll try it regardless when the tanks are out, but I'm not expecting Wargaming to change it before it comes in the game. And is it quite balanced? I don't think the tier 8 is balanced. Just look at the rate of fire it had. I think the tank has more than not 4k, that's too much, but maybe 2.7k alpha DPM, average DPM. And if it's the case, let's face it, this tank is gonna do extremely well, because at tier 8 having more than 2.6k of average DPM is a hell of a DPM. It's gonna allow you to destroy 2 tanks within 1 minute. So yeah, that's the one I fear the most. But let's talk a little bit more about the Vickers. Look at the mobility. The tank seems to be quite strong in terms of mobility. Of course, he's using a booster at the moment, so we can't judge fairly. But even without it, let's just wait for him to drop it. Look at this. You go around 65 kilometers per hour, and your traverse speed is simply amazing. I'm really expecting this one to be the most versatile out of all the tanks, since the Sheridan is gonna get it's gonna get not the dispersion, a top speed nerf, as they removed at least 100 horsepower from the engine of the Sheridan. I don't know how it's gonna affect the Sheridan, but if it's the case, through missiles, all the nerfs the Sheridan is going through, maybe the Vickers is gonna be the new Sheridan, but at least it's not gonna be Kansa, because you don't have to play with ATGMs, which is a good thing. Now, overall, should you get a Vickers light tank? I'm gonna tell you who should go for the Vickers light tank, because I think that's a question we should all ask ourselves. Because even if a tank is new, and I understand that you want to get yours, maybe the playstyle is not gonna fit you. What do you need to know? You are not allowed to make mistakes with the Vickers. You don't have armor, so as soon as you're gonna do a mistake and get shot, you're not gonna bounce anything, except if you're extremely lucky. But let's face it, it's gonna be quite rare. So what do you need to know about this tank? It's all about the gun depression and the snapshot. You need to know how to snapshot. If you don't have a clue what snapshot is or peekaboo, this tank is not made for you. Of course, if you want to be more effective playing this tank, you should try to peekaboo from rich lines where you can use your gun depression. This way, instead of showing both your hull and your turret and make it quite an easy target to penetrate, you will show only maybe your gun mantlet, and you will be able to bounce some shots. That's exactly what you have to do with this tank. You find a rich line, you wait for your enemies to arrive, you poke, you put your shell, you go back, you wait for your reload, and you poke again. Of course, you don't poke if enemies are facing you or aiming at you, because they're not gonna bounce. But yeah, it's all about surprising your enemies and your opponents. And that's what I love about these kind of tanks and light tanks in general. It's all about being sneaky, and I love playing this tank and this game in a sneaky way. Also, the total grind is gonna cost you more than 700,000 1000 experience. It's quite a lot regarding we only have 3 tanks, but there is a good side. If you already have the Heavy 4202 in your garage, you're gonna have an easiest green because you will be able, you will already have unlocked nearly all the modules concerning engine and probably the gun as well, if I remember correctly from my previous video. So yeah, it can be a good idea to go for it after the Heavy 4202, or once you unlock this tank, it can be a good idea for you to go for the Heavy 4202 if your goal is to unlock tier 10 rapidly. That's overall what I had to say about the Vickers. Now, what am I fearing? What are my expectations about this tank? I'm expecting this tank to do well for good players, not bad players, and that's the point of balancing, so I think Wargaming did a good job on that. But what are my fears? My main fear with this tank is the HE shells. For the moment, the tank is only facing tier 10s because we are in the test server. But once you're gonna get it against tier 9s, I'm really expecting this tank to simply destroy literally everything. Because we don't know yet the values, the penetration values of HE, but if you're using calibrated shell, I'm really expecting you to be able to do great stuff. For example, being able to simply destroy whatever tier 9 if you manage to go in their back, etc. The way the Heavy 4202 does. Because let's face it, you already have 3.2k DPM with the Vickers light tank with AP. Imagine how much you're gonna get with HE. You're simply gonna destroy everything. You're gonna have more than 4k. 4k is a lot, guys, and that's why I hope Wargaming is gonna do a good job balancing the tank. Even if I think they are doing a pretty good job for the 7.0 update. They really want to make things goes well, and I'm expecting them to do a good work. At least I hope. And no, I'm not sponsored by Wargaming to say that. I'm really thinking what I'm saying right now. So yeah, overall, that's it for the Vickers. Are you excited for it? Personally, I am. As soon as the tank drops out, I'm gonna do a review of all the 3 tanks. I'm gonna buy all of them with 3 experience. I have enough experience in my garage to be able to do that. And I'm gonna keep you in touch on both, if it's worth it, and the playstyle you need to adopt with the tank so you have the right tools before entering battle. Anyway, hope you enjoyed. I'm gonna see you soon for a future video, and take care of yourself, guys.